Saludos amigos, KASH here, President and CEO of Real Estate in LasTerrenas.com. How's everyone doing out there? Guys, thanks for joining us here today on the channel for another special episode in our docuseries, which is called The Truth About Buying Real Estate in the Dominican Republic. Guys, we are putting this out for you guys. It is critical information for anybody that is considering buying real estate today, tomorrow, or in 10 years. It is information that is coming to you from one of the top law firms in the country, one of the top lawyers in the country, dedicated to real estate development and real estate transactions for everyone across the world. But specifically, I am working with my good friend, Vladimir Alonso. He is senior counsel at GUZMAN ARIZA, and we have facilitated hundreds of transactions at this point. And he is my resident expert to answer questions I have as a North American, and a lot of those questions are very similar to yours. So guys, I'm going to do a quick introduction. If you haven't seen the other videos, I highly encourage you to just pause here, go watch those videos so you're in tune with everything we're talking about. If you've been sticking with the series and you've been sticking with the channel, that is amazing. So I'm going to give him a chance to give him a quick introduction of himself, the firm, and then we're going to dive into some of the questions I have on a very important topic, hopefully something that all of you go through, which is a closing here in the Dominican Republic. And then also we're going to cover in the same episode post-closing procedures, stuff that happens after you close, after you have those keys to your brand new place. Okay? So without further ado, Vladimir, say hello.
Hey.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
And thanks for having me one more time in your channel in this effort to deliver to all of our common clients information that we're absolutely sure that more and more clients are finding useful.
Exactly.
And encouraging them to come here to Paradise to invest. Yesterday we had a closing. As you know, I met with your partner Patrick.
Correct.
And they did, when I was trying to introduce, I was kind of surprised because when I was trying to introduce myself, he was like, I know who you are. I'm watching the docuseries.
Exactly, so that's amazing.
And we are truly appreciate all the support and all the views that you guys have been giving us because more and more clients are coming, and it's coming like usual for me that people already know me by the time they get to the office.
Exactly. We're going to make this guy famous by the end of the month.
But like I said, for those who still have not watched the docuseries, I'm Vladimir Alonso, as KASH says.
Correct.
I am a senior counsel from GUZMAN ARIZA Attorneys at Law, the biggest law firm in the Dominican Republic. I am based here in our TERRENAS office,
yes,
and helping KASH as well as all of his clients, making them have safe investments and safe transactions here in Paradise. So
perfect.
We have been working in like 4 or 5 of these videos already, in which we already went over all the details of purchasing real estate property. So we already covered all the things related to the real estate transactions prior to the closing, which is what we're going to talk about today, the closing and the post-closing procedures.
100%. So what I encourage you guys to do is we have a playlist set up with this, which is Truth About Buying Real Estate in the Dominican Republic. So there's a playlist. Click on that, and you will see all of the existing videos. So we have, I don't have the exact count, but I think we have about 4 or so videos left to do. The grand finale was going to be in November, but we got really busy unexpectedly. We thought there's a slow season, but that doesn't exist here in Las Terrenas anymore. It's just, you know, and I say this all the time to Vladimir and other professional colleagues I have. Las Terrenas is progress, and how I like to compare Las Terrenas to North America, where many of my subscribers, as you know, we have a boutique firm. We focus on North Americans primarily. We help everybody, but we are North Americans. We're brokers and investors, okay? So we're really able to help you guys out. The key thing here is that progress. I look at Las Terrenas kind of like the 1970s in Canada in the way of opportunity, okay? There's so much opportunity here. There's a fresh way of thinking. People are hungry for success. The middle class is thriving and they're growing. Where in North America, things are a little bit different, as you all know. So I'll save that for another video. But today what we'll do is we're going to dive right into closing procedures. Vladimir actually came to visit me during lunch. We had to find the time to do this, so we said, hey, let's meet up for lunch, and this is our lunch with you guys.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about closing. We're going to talk about what it feels like when you arrive. I've had multiple closings now personally and for other clients, but maybe you have not. So I want you to understand what it feels like when you're here and you do a closing. What it feels like to be in Vladimir's office. What are you going to be getting? Do you get keys in your hands at the end of closing? What does it feel like? So he's going to go over that day with you, that special day with you, and then we're going to go into some of the elements that he still needs to conduct after you walk away, after you have possession of your place, and those are certain elements that have to happen after. So we're going to cover that whole thing so you fully understand it, and let's dive in. You ready? Okay, let's go. So I'm going to start with the first question for you. It's very broad from a high level. Explain to me the difference, Vladimir, between your understanding of a closing in North America versus how we close here in the Dominican Republic.
Well, they are very similar in some aspects and different in some other aspects. For example, they're similar in the way that on the day you do the closing, you sign all the paperwork and you get the possession of the property, you make the final payment to the seller, and all those things happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
There are, however, a few minor differences. One of them is that usually in North America, when you're going to make a closing on a property, you have to sign a pile of documents like this. It doesn't happen like that here because in the due diligence, which by the way you already talked about in one of our previous videos, go watch it. We make all the verifications related to the property style. And by the time that we're going to sit and have the closing, it's just like a 3 or 4 page contract at the most, and that's it. That's all you're going to sign. So it's much simpler. There's a lot less to read because in the closing, we already verify everything. Also, depending on where you are, because in some states of the United States, in some countries in the world, you might not need an attorney to do a closing because
in Florida, for example, I believe.
Yeah, you might work just with a broker in a property that does like a title insurance.
Title insurance company, correct? Yeah.
And they are usually the ones who handle everything, and you walk out of your closing with a title. Here, it does not work like that because at the closing, what happens here in the DR is that you sign the contract. You get the possession of the property, make the payment to the seller, but for example, the attorney's work is not done yet because you have to then do a few mere steps in order to transfer the property certificate of title under the buyer's name, which is what we're calling the post-closing procedures.
Correct.
And we're going to be talking about
exactly. I was going to say, don't give it away yet. We're going to go into that. We're going to dive deep into that right at the end.
Yeah. So in general, it's a very simple process because after, for example, the promise of sale, after the due diligence, after all the conditions that were agreed on the contract are made, then the final, the big day has arrived, it's time for you to do the closing.
Okay.
Then it's very, very simple. We either meet at our office, both parties, seller and buyer need to be present or represented by the representatives with a power of attorney. So both need to be present or represented. At the time of the closing, contract is signed, seller is paid, you get possession of the property in your keys, and that's it. It's a very, very smooth and simple process.
So guys, what I'm going to be doing is asking the questions I believe you're going to be asking as Vladimir's explaining the technicalities of the closing to us. So I'll jump in and kind of interrupt him here or there with some questions that pop in my mind. One question I have for you, Vladimir, is in the closing, in previous episodes, we talked about the power of attorney and how that works. And one episode, we talked about whether you need to be in the country or not to purchase real estate in the Dominican Republic. Yeah. So they must be wondering, I've now purchased a property, which the quick answer to that is no, you do not have to be in the country to purchase real estate. Okay, you can be in another country. So now you want to close. Do they have to be in the country to close on the property if they purchased it from a foreign country?
No.
Explain that.
Look, I'm going to tell you, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people watching that can tell. Like half of the transactions that you and I have made this year, I have never ever seen the virus.
Correct.
At some points I will see you guys, and there's a lot of you. But what I'm trying to say with that is that definitely, no, you do not need to be here in the country. We already spoke about it in detail in a video, but there's multiple ways. You just need either to arrange power of attorney through the Dominican consulate in your country, or using a notary of your country, or there are multiple ways. But
correct.
The idea is that you are here because if you are closing on a property and you're taking possession of it, of course you want to open a bottle of champagne and enjoy
exactly. No, completely.
The property the same day that you
it's a special moment.
Yeah, it's a special moment, but if by chance you are not able to come here by the time that the closing is scheduled, no problem. We could close the deal on your behalf with a power of attorney, hold the keys for you, and wait until you return, and your property will be there safe and secure.
Exactly. So I know that might be a question that's popping into your head, concerned that, oh, if I can't make the closing, does that jeopardize the sale? Am I going to lose money? What's going to happen? Don't worry about all those things. With the power of attorney, we can get all those things resolved. Tune into that episode because we go really deep in that. Yeah. Any further questions, send me a WhatsApp. No issue. Throw some comments down below. So thank you for answering that one. Upon closing, here's another big question. Upon closing, do I, actually I have one of my titles sitting right there that Vladimir's going to be hanging on to for me. Do I get that closing document at the time of closing when I leave your office? Does it work that way?
No, it doesn't work like that. Because as I explained at closing, what happens is that you sign a contract. And after you sign the contract, then you get the property surrogate's paid. But in order to transfer the property certificate of title, in case some
actually, you know, yeah, I'll give you a quick blurb of that.
Yeah. This is what a certificate of title looks like in the Dominican Republic, and it's what attests your ownership of one property. Here, like Cash said, this is one of his certificate of title of one of the property he has invested in. So do you get this at the closing? No. Because there are still a few steps, like I previously said, that you will still have to go, which are, first, as you know, unless the property has come futur, all the properties that you purchase, in order to transfer them at your name, you should pay a transfer tax, which by the way is 3% of the purchase price. So after the closing, in order that we are able to get these titles for you, we have to submit the contract in a copy of the title, which at that point is at the seller's name. Then we submit those documents to the tax authority's office in order that in a matter of a few days they tell us the amount.
Where's the tax authority's office?
Well, there's one in each province.
Okay.
In some provinces like Santo Domingo, there's multiple offices.
Got it.
But here in Las Terrenas, since we are part of the province of Samaná, then in Samaná is where the main office is, and that's where we go and deposit those files. We have an office, as you know, in Samaná. One of our 8 offices is located there, and we have paralegals there and things that will, and people that will help us making all those diligence smooth and easy, so I don't necessarily need to go personally.
So basically, if you don't know the geography here, if you haven't visited, I would say Samaná is about an hour or so drive through the mountains to get the other side.
Yeah.
I want to explain one thing to you guys though. In the fees at GUZMAN ARIZA, those services are included as part of their fees. So don't feel like there's additional fees for the drive, pick up all, because it's a lot of work. You got to drive there, spend a whole day to do this stuff.
Usually is because most of the North American clients are used to, for example, getting billed by the attorney per hour.
Correct.
We could come do it, but we just do like a flat fee from the beginning in order that the client know what they are spending. And after that, there's no surprises. Everything from the very start until you get your certificate of title in your hand, all those things are included. So that's one of the advantages of working with a firm like ours that has offices basically all over the country, and anywhere you will have to make something. You don't necessarily need to travel there and increase the expenses.
They are the biggest, the biggest law firm in the entire Dominican Republic. nearly 80 attorneys or something along those lines. And that economy of scale really helps you out. One caveat I want to add on, since we're touching on legal fees, is the only thing that doesn't get included is the translation, because all contracts have to be in Spanish here. So the only thing that is not included is the translation.
And the transfer tax.
Then the transfer tax, which we all understand, that is not something an attorney would cover, but the translation of the contract, because it's not as simple as run it through Google Translator. It has to be legally translated. I don't know if a notary gets involved at that point or not, but
a translator,
certified
translator.
A certified translator, exactly. It's not just Google Translate. So there is a small additional fee for that. It's pretty inconsequential, but that is the only additional fee, really, right?
Yeah, but other than that, there should be no surprises. So going back to the transfer taxes, as I said, we'll deposit the file in the tax authority's office in order to determine the amount to pay in transfer taxes, in principle 3% of the purchase price. Then we will inform the client and we send the invoice issued by the tax authority. They send that money to us. They will wire it to our account. As you already know, we have escrow account services all over the world, including the United States, in order that it's not a big problem.
In Miami, right?
Yeah, in order that you don't have to worry about wiring large amount of money here to the Dominican.
Can I explain something on that note really quick? I want to touch on that because I've utilized the service numerous times, and it makes a world of a difference in the simplicity of getting your deal done and getting the funds over here. So from Canada, as you guys know, I'm Canadian, the funds are transferred from Canada to their escrow account in Miami. At that point, he has been able to, or I have been able to notify the seller on my own personal deals that the funds have arrived into their account. At that point, usually there's a sigh of relief. Essentially, my payment has been done. That's how I look at it. And it's a really useful service though, okay? So keep that in mind. That is a value add when you're working with Vlad.
Which is also included in our service.
Which is also included, correct, yes.
So then after we get that payment from you, we proceed to pay the transfer taxes in the tax authority's office. Then we forward the file to the final stage of the real estate transaction, which is getting the title at your name. With the receipt of the payment of the taxes, the original of the title of the seller's name, the contract, and all that, we forward that to the title registrar's office, and in a matter of a few weeks, then you will have a new certificate of title.
Just like we just showed you, yeah.
At your name. It doesn't mean any risk, because I recall having some experiences with people that in their countries get a title actually there.
Yeah, correct.
So you might wonder, is there any kind of risk for me of paying and getting the possession but not the title? No, because there is only one certificate of title. It's not like a digital copy. It's like only, there's, for example, from this property, which is one of the multiple properties that KASH owns, there's only one title, and it's this one. If he ever sells it and gives this to someone else, there's nothing KASH could do or resell it to someone else, because there's just one title, and whoever you hand it to is the person that will be allowed with the contract to transfer at their name. So it doesn't bring any risk or add any risk to the deal that it will take a few weeks for you to get the title after the closing happens.
So quick question, actually two questions in one, and you can answer them at the same time. One is, that's a very important document. If I lose it, what happens and how do I get a new one? And the second part of that question is, actually, you know what, jump on the first part of that question, because that's an important one.
Well, you better keep it on a safe place. Most of our clients actually leave it in our office. We also have a massive room there. And the work of 30 years in the TERRENAS office is all there.
Wow.
And there's people there that have purchased a property 10, 15, 20 years ago, and their titles are still there and safe. If one day they're going to sell, they just say, hey, go to my lawyer's office, all the documents are there, and they don't have any complications on that matter. Or something even more unfortunate, we have had cases that, for example, a client passes away, and their family knows that all the documents are here, so they contact us and say, hey, these are all the assets of your family, let's make your determination on HERS process, and the title are here. So it's kind of a pain when something happens to some people that owns, you know that, for example, your father owns property on a certain spot. You know they own it, but you don't know who to contact, where are those documents or something. But it also always depends on the client, because it doesn't mean like we want to keep the certificate of title. For us, it doesn't make any difference. You could take
And you don't charge for that service?
No, we don't charge for that.
Okay.
You could either take it with you or leave it with us. But if you take it with you, please keep it on a safe place, because if you lose it, since, as Kash said, it's a very important certificate, a very important document, there are a lot of requirements to get a new one. You have to sign a declaration on a notary, even put it on a national newspaper.
How much does it cost?
Yeah, and then you would, even if you sign that in front of a notary, and we have to go to the title registrar's office then to get a new one, they will most likely you go to the title registrar's
so there's
office.
travel expense too.
That they see you either in person or through a Zoom call. Why? Because that will be a way for securing you that you are not going to be the victim of a fraud.
Of course.
Because what if someone can make your signature similar, get a title from you, and stuff? No. They will most likely, someone requests a copy of a new title for these properties, you will most likely have to attend either virtually or personally to the title registrar's office, which means time, which means legal fees and expenses.
Of course.
In the best scenario, it will cost you a couple $1,000. So it's a very important, I like it that way, because I like that they have a lot of controls.
Of course, yeah, yes.
Get a new copy of
I agree.
the title, because as I said, it's about, you know, legal security.
And that's what this country provides with real estate.
Yeah,
and this is another example of it with the title.
Yeah.
There could be, you might think that, oh, you're very organized and you have a filing cabinet and you don't really care about the fact of losing the title. But something as simple as, as you know, I've been through this recent situation, a fire. You could have a fire in your residence, and something like that you have your files, your titles put away, and they're all burned and gone. So to avoid the headache, what I'm going to do, and that's actually why this title's here. I recently received it. And I'm going to be giving it to Vladimir, who's going to be holding on to it. That's why it's sitting here right now.
I'm going to put it with the others.
You put it with the others, correct. So so it takes roughly, is it the same amount of time for commercial or residential real estate to get the title after closing?
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference because in the end, it's a certificate of title regardless of the kind of property that you are purchasing.
So ballpark again is what? 2 months-ish?
Between 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks,
but
okay.
It depends, because then if you buy a property with Confotur, which
okay, let's dive into that.
Most of your clients are doing, then the process is a little different.
If you guys don't know too much about Confotur, if you're new to the channel, I have some videos on Confotur, refer to those, but a quick recap. It's part of the Constitution here. It's an actual segment of the law, 158-01 is the section, and that designates certain areas of the Dominican Republic as touristic development zones, and because of that, you save on the transfer tax, the 3%.
And the property tax.
For 15 years, yes. There's some other advantages in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have one full video talking about.
Yes, that's going to be coming up. That might be the next one, maybe.
No, well, yeah, one of the next.
One of the next ones, correct.
Yeah. Well, so you might be wondering, yeah, but Vladimir mentioned that after the closing, there are 2 steps, which are paying the transfer taxes, and then getting the title transferred at my name. But what if my property is tax-free?
Confotur, yeah.
How is the post-closing procedure different? Then let's assume that you're purchasing a property with Confotur. Then the only difference will be that instead of heading to the title, to the tax authority's office here in Samaná, we will make a request, but to the main office in Santo Domingo.
I see.
There, by the way, in order to get a certificate that will allow us to transfer the property certificate of title at your name without having to pay the taxes.
Interesting.
Since it's on Santo Domingo, there's only one office doing that for the whole country, then that adds probably a few more weeks to the process of transferring the title at your name, which again doesn't bring any risk to you. It is just how it is.
Actually, you know what this is? Let me see my title again, because this is actually a Confotur project. So when you're looking at this, whereabouts are you seeing the Confotur element of it?
You don't see it on the title.
Okay.
Because, for example, the process of registration, as I said, involves 2 stages. You have to register the property at the tax authority's office.
Understood.
And then at the title registrar's office.
Understood.
The tax authority gives you a certificate in which they put your name, the square meters of the property, the appraised value of the property.
It's good information.
That's where you see if it's tax-free or not, because those government officials, their work is taxation. But then after that, you go to the title registrar, which are the ones that issue this document.
Understood.
And they do not mention anything. Whether you have conflict or not, their job is to verify that you fulfill all the requirements to buy this property, and if you did, then issue a title at your name.
Perfect. No, that's actually really good information. I didn't know that. So we're going to dive into the other question here, and this is pretty standard for us North Americans. My brother, who is a large broker in Canada, Remax Capital Diamond, his business card, he has a cool little image of him holding a set of keys, and that's kind of been his branding, and that's how he does it. So in that branding, the big moment for any purchaser, especially when you're buying in another country like this for the first time, is getting that set of keys handed over to you at closing. At closing, do you get a set of keys? Are you holding the keys? Do I walk out of that office with my keys in my hand?
Yeah, as long as the seller gets paid at the same time, yes. Because that is why, for example, some people might be purchasing property here, and they are going to pay the seller, but the wire is going to come from out of the country. You might sign the contract and make the wire, but the seller might not be willing to give you the possession of the property if he didn't get paid yet. Some sellers might be kind of picky. Most of them, thank God, are in good faith, and even if it takes a while for the funds to go into his account, then they would allow you to go in.
If there's deposits or something.
What should happen is that the contract is signed, the seller gets paid, and you get the keys. So it can happen, you get the key as long as the payment and the signature of the contract happen simultaneously, which is where the big importance of our escrow account service is, because you don't necessarily have to wait until the closing day to wire the funds, even if you don't have a bank account here in the Dominican Republic yet. Because what you do is you wire the funds to our account, and then we previously prepare everything, write a check or something for the seller, and then we grant that he gets paid at the closing, and then you get the possession of the property that you are purchasing.
So yeah, that is a really good advantage. Another advantage of that escrow account, and that was actually the exact scenario that occurred. If the seller knows the funds are sitting in their escrow account, there is a sigh of relief. They know the funds are sitting there and ready to be distributed as needed. So yes, you do get your keys, assuming they got their money, you're going to walk out with a set of keys. So before I jump into this other question, a question popped into my mind. The title has not arrived, right? I have my keys. That means I have possession. If I wanted to, am I able to flip the unit right away? I bought it for $100,000. Somebody wants to buy it tomorrow for $150,000, which is not abnormal in this market. Can I sell it the next day?
Yes, you can, because for instance, when you purchase a property, let's say in pre-construction, you sell a lot in pre-construction. You sign a promise of sale, and you don't get a title until it's built, and then you get the possession. So you could make kind of a long-term agreement with your buyer. Let's say that you bought a property today and you're going to resell. You found a nice opportunity that you can't let go, and you immediately find someone that you can resell it and make some money. Since you have to go through the process of transferring the title at your name, which depending on if you have conflict or not might take something between 2 to 4 months, then what do? You sign a promise of sale, take a deposit from your buyer, and then we put as a condition that the closing will be when you could get the property certificate of title, which would happen in 2, 3, 4 months, whatever.
Exactly.
So yes, you could technically sign a promise of sale, sell it, commit to sell it with the promise of sale, and then just do the closing when the title is issued at your name. So
the simple answer on that is yes. Even though you don't have the title in your hand, that does not restrict you, because you have lawful possession of the property, and that means it's yours. That means you can sell it. Yeah. So that delay does not cause delays to you in reselling it. So that's an important note, and Vladimir can dive deeper if you're in that situation. So one of the last questions here I have is, if the buyer is getting financing from the seller in the purchase, if that is part of the deal, and it's not very often in this market because this is definitely a seller's market, so the need for seller financing is not there most of the time. However, depending on deals, I have a deal like that. If there is seller financing, how does that work when it comes to the title?
Well, it doesn't change anything in regards of the closing, because what we do is at the closing, let's say that, for example, the seller wants to sell you a property for, let's say, 500,000, and you have 300,000 cash, and he says, hey, okay, that's fine, give me the other 200,000 over the next 8 months, for example. And then, okay, you do that in the contract, you transfer the property certificate of title. Unlike with an average mortgage with a third party like a bank, there is no tax on the mortgage that you get from the seller, because it's not actually a mortgage, it's something that we call the privilege of the non-paid seller. So we just put that clause, and then the mortgage on the name of the seller is registered at the same time that the title is registered at your name. So for example, by the time that the title is issued, there is also going to be like a certificate of creditors that will grant the credit of the seller, and that would allow him to reclaim the property if you don't pay.
Got it.
You see, so both things happen at the same time, so it's
simultaneous.
Simultaneously, and by the time you get there, as long as it is in the contract, then when your title is issued, a certificate of creditors will be issued to the seller's name as well. By the way, now that I mentioned the mortgages, because sometimes
that was going to be my next question.
Not all the sellers are willing to give you financing.
Correct. How is it different with bank financing?
You might be willing you might want to go to a bank and request a mortgage to finance part of your purchase. And then the only difference is at the final deal of sale, the contract will be a three-way deal in which you will be the buyer, the seller is the seller, and the bank is the creditor. You buy a property, the seller sells a property, and the bank puts a loan against the same property, and everything is registered at the same time.
A lien.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that, unlike when the seller gives you the credit directly, that adds a tax of 2% of the amount of the mortgage.
That is when to clarify, that's when the bank provides financing, there's an additional 2%?
A bank or any other third party.
But not the seller, a private lender, okay.
No.
Explain that 2% additional fee. That's not coming from the law firm, that's not coming from a broker. Who's that coming from?
That is a tax, because for example,
coming from the government.
If you're not requiring financing, you purchase a property cash deal, you pay 3% of the purchase price, that's it. But the mortgages, whether they are part of a real estate transaction or not, you should pay a 2% tax on the mortgages. Everywhere in the world, the mortgages are taxed. So if as a result of your purchase, you are having a mortgage with a third party, let's say the same example, you're buying something for 500,000.
Okay.
You pay 300,000, and the bank is going to give you a lien for 200,000. Then you pay 3% of 500,000 and 2% of 200,000, which is the amount of the mortgage that you are making. So that is the only difference between an average closing and purchasing something with financing from a third party like a private lender or a bank.
No, that's a really good explanation, because there's really three variables there. Either you're paying it all in cash, or the seller's going to give you some financing, or the bank is. And now you guys understand exactly how the title gets affected, lien-wise or processing-wise. All of this happens in post-closing procedures.
Yeah, all of those things happen there.
Now, we've only got a couple minutes left on this. As we said, this is not one of our longer segments. Anything else to add on the post-closing procedures, in your opinion? Is there something that we didn't? I feel like we covered almost everything that we
did.
happens
we did. Nothing comes to my mind right now, but regardless, as we always say in all the videos, in case that some of you have any questions about this or any of the previous videos that we have made in regards of purchasing property, don't hesitate to make a question here in the comments. I have agreed with KASH that for any of you, even if you are not ready to purchase next month, but let's say you're planning to do it next year or whenever, and you might have questions, do not hesitate to contact us, because we will be happy to answer your questions. KASH can set up a chat on WhatsApp or somewhere else in which we could answer all your questions. And even if you are free consultation, we could schedule a
That's
call.
what I was going to,
Anything that, for example, might come to your mind that perhaps we didn't talk about in these videos, do not hesitate to do it, because we're here for that. And all of your clients are getting that benefit.
No, 100%. I appreciate that. That's something I want to add on to what he's saying there. When you're working with our brokerage. As you guys know, we're a boutique firm. We really specialize in the North American needs and wants because we're North Americans ourselves. We're brokers and investors. But above and beyond that, we have a network of professionals like Vladimir, GUZMAN, ARIZA, with various banks, with surveyors, builders, et cetera, all people that know how to work with North Americans, okay? Myself being a North American. So when you do come down here, you have access to this network. One of the most important people that you need to meet is your attorney. And of course, it's going to be your decision ultimately, but I would highly encourage you come, make us your first phone call. We'll go for a trip. We'll show you the properties, the great investment opportunities that are out there, pre-construction, existing, luxury, whatever you're looking for, land. And we'll also schedule a 1-hour free consultation with Vladimir so you can get to meet him. Maybe that'll be the point where you want to sign, you know you love Las Terrenas, you know you love KASH and his brokerage, and you know you love Vladimir, and you do a power of attorney at that point. So therefore, when you're out of the country, we keep looking, you might be able to proceed with a purchase without even being here. So, you know,
yeah,
let's get them in front of you.
And I have to say that to everyone that has made the questions on the previous videos or requested a consultation, we have provided the services. Most of them have decided to move forward.
Correct.
For me, this docuseries is very special, and it honestly touches my heart every time that I have to interact with someone that met me through the videos. And I'm gonna, for example, mention one case in particular and say hi to her. I know, for example, you know Mia.
She's amazing, yes. She just closed yesterday, right?
Mia, if you're watching this video, we send you a warm regard here from Paradise. And for example, in her case, by the time she went to the office to sign her paperwork, and she was like, you know what, she even signed the engagement letters, even though it wasn't
Of course, yes.
And she was like, you know what, I saw your videos, I trust you.
Yeah, no.
I feel like I had already known you from before, and I just trust you. So for me, I get that comment every often. I saw you in the video, and it's like people already know me from these videos, and it always touches my heart to see people that first watch this video and that then turns into someone that got encouraged and pulled the trigger, and then we got involved into a negotiation. So I'm looking forward to have much more of that. We still have a lot of other videos to talk about. Next one is going to be very interesting because today we talked about closing and the post-closing procedures. So next one we are going to be talking on how you should close, which means should you close with an LLC, a trust at your personal name. So in the next one, which is definitely a video that you don't want to miss, we're going to be talking about that and talking about the differences between one thing or the other.
Positives and negatives.
It might be an advantage to purchase or not with a trust, an LLC, or at your personal name.
Yeah, so that's going to be a very important video. You guys are getting very well versed through this docuseries, through the information myself as a broker and Vladimir on how things work here. And as you can see, purchasing real estate here in the Dominican Republic can be done safely and securely, but you do need to cross your T's and dot your I's. Myself, always engaging an attorney. I engage Vladimir with my deals. So Vladimir, this was the first video we actually did in our office. As you guys know, you've seen my office. I've done a couple videos. I'm located right Times Square of Las Terrenas in the center of town. You cannot miss us. We recently moved up into the penthouse unit of this office location. Okay, and this is our first video here in the office, so it's a special video. So that's it for this one, guys. Keep your eyes and ears open for our special finale that we're going to be doing. It was going to be happening in November, but like I said earlier, we're going to be doing this in January, probably mid to late January, and we're going to make sure you all know about it. If you're visiting during that period of time, I want you guys to come and join us. We're going to be announcing the location. We're going to have a bunch of guest speakers. We're going to have some drink. We're going to have some food. It's going to be a special evening and a special night. So stay tuned for that, and that'll be our grand finale, guys. Alrighty. That's it for this one, Vlad. I really appreciate all the information.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Comment, do your questions, hit a like, and share these videos with your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you guys with KASH in the next one.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Vladimir. See you soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video here today. I hope you learned as much as we did. Guys, stay tuned for the up and coming episodes. They're going to be coming with this docuseries. Now, if you are looking for your home in paradise, guys, there's so many videos online. There's tons and tons of interviews, properties, and specialty reports that you are privileged to. All free content, all here. Remember, guys, life is short. Love where you live.